The road to D-Day. Preparation for the impossible. By 1943, World War II had reached a critical point. Nazi Germany still controlled much of Western Europe, and the Allies knew that victory was impossible without a direct assault on the continent. The Soviet Union was bleeding on the Eastern Front, desperately demanding a second front in the West. The pressure was immense. The solution was bold and unprecedented, a massive amphibious invasion of Nazi-occupied France. This plan became Operation Overlord, the largest military operation ever conceived. For over a year, Allied commanders secretly prepared in Britain. Millions of soldiers were trained, supplied, and hidden. Entire fake armies were created using inflatable tanks, wooden aircraft, and false radio signals to deceive German intelligence. General Dwight Eisenhower was appointed Supreme Allied Commander. His responsibility was enormous. The fate of Europe rested on one decision. The chosen landing area was Normandy, less defended than Calais, but far more dangerous due to tides, cliffs, and weather. Every detail mattered. Timing, moonlight, tides, air support, all had to align perfectly. Failure would mean catastrophe. Success would change history. The night before, paratroopers and deception. On the night of June 5, 1944, as darkness covered the English Channel, the invasion quietly began. Thousands of Allied paratroopers boarded aircraft, knowing many would never return. Their mission was critical: land behind enemy lines, secure bridges, cut communication routes, and disrupt German defenses before the main assault. Scattered by fog and anti-aircraft fire, paratroopers landed miles from their targets. Chaos followed, but so did courage. Small groups fought isolated battles, improvising under fire. Their confusion became an advantage, making the Germans believe a much larger force had landed. Meanwhile, deception operations reached their peak. Fake radio traffic convinced German commanders that Normandy was only a diversion. Hitler himself believed the real invasion would come later at Calais. As soldiers fought in darkness, the largest invasion fleet in history silently crossed the Channel. Over 5,000 ships moved toward the French coast. Dawn was coming, and with it, the moment that would define the war. June 6, 1944, the landings began. At first light, Allied warships opened fire on German coastal defenses. Bombers roared overhead. Then the landing craft doors dropped. On 5 beaches, Utah, Omaha, Gold, Juneau, and Sword, over 156,000 Allied troops stormed ashore. Nowhere was the fighting more brutal than Omaha Beach. German machine guns, artillery, and mines turned the shoreline into chaos. Soldiers drowned under heavy equipment. Units were pinned down. Command broke apart. Survival depended on individual courage. Despite horrific losses, small groups pushed forward, climbing cliffs and destroying enemy positions. By midday, the seemingly impossible had been achieved. The Allies had secured footholds along the coast. The cost was staggering. Nearly 10,000 Allied casualties occurred on D-Day alone. But the invasion had succeeded. Germany's Atlantic Wall had been breached. Holding the line, the battle after the beaches. D-Day was not the end. It was the beginning. In the bays following June 6th, fierce fighting continued across Normandy. German counterattacks were relentless. Towns were reduced to rubble. Hedgerows became deadly battlegrounds where progress was measured in meters. The Allies rushed to bring more men, tanks, and supplies ashore. Artificial harbors, known as mulberry ports, were assembled to sustain the invasion. Without them, the advance would have collapsed. Slowly, painfully, Allied forces pushed inland. Air superiority crippled German reinforcements. By July, the Allies broke through at Operation Cobra, finally escaping the Norman countryside. Paris was liberated in August. The road to Germany was open. Consequences: why D-Day changed history. D-Day marked the beginning of the end for Nazi Germany. With Allied armies advancing from the west and Soviet forces pushing from the east, Germany was trapped in a war it could no longer win. Less than a year later, Berlin fell. Hitler was dead. Europe was free. But D-Day's legacy goes beyond victory. It proved that cooperation between nations could defeat tyranny. It demonstrated the cost of freedom, paid in blood by ordinary men far from home. And it reminded the world that courage, preparation, and sacrifice can change the course of history. June 6, 1944, was not just a battle. It was the day hope returned to Europe.